to spot healing brush tool, and I'll just kind of go over that just to make it look a little better. And there's something dark there that I don't like. Basically what I can do right now is any branches that I didn't go around and clean up before I took my photo, I can go around and let's take this branch for example. If I want to get rid of this, or if it was a root that was attached that I didn't want to break to get rid of, but this is probably just a regular tool, I can go over that and presto changeo, that's gone. If I want to get rid of this one here, again I can do the same thing, and I can clean up branches that maybe I couldn't reach, or whatever the case. But to me, these bright orange branches, they're all kind of distractions, so if I didn't get them when I was doing my housekeeping, as I call it, to clean up the scene, I can go around and do that because I like my photos to look fairly clean. Now, once again, there's somebody else. This is actually somebody's leg. So I'm going to go back to the quick selection tool and see how this works out. Now this can get a little tricky because this is part of the river and this is part of the mossy green area, so this can sometimes work really well, sometimes it doesn't work out great. See that? It kind of does its own little thing sometimes, so I'll have to deselect, and let's just try a little section of it here to get started. Okay, and fill, and let's see what it does. Oh, see, that turned out pretty good. Deselect. As you can see, it's maintained the curvature there, and you can still see part of the leg. So now let's go down to the leg and do a little bit of that. Sometimes this works great, sometimes not so great. Let's see if that looks fairly natural. And we'll do it right here as well. Get rid of the last part of the leg, see how it looks. Fill. Okay. Okay, that doesn't look too bad actually. I mean, this is just a small section of the photo that's not in the main part of attention, so just do that little part there, and that should about do it. And then once again, I can go to that tool I was just using before, just make that's a little bit dark there. Again, that's looks a little bit funny, so I'm just trying to get rid of that. And it looks like being a little bit stubborn, but anyway, I don't want to go on and on, so I'll just leave it at that. You can experiment with it, but as you can see, that effectively, except for that little area which I'd work on later on, got rid of that person's leg. So let's go up to where somebody's face was kind of in the photo in between here. I think he is trying to get in my photo, but I'm going to get rid of him. So we'll go back to this, and let's get rid of his forehead. Fill. Okay. Not too bad. Get rid of his nose and his mouth. Could be a Bigfoot. I don't know. Evan was as big as a Bigfoot, so. Okay, so that actually turned out pretty good. There's a dark thing right here. I think that's part of his, what he is wearing. Get rid of that. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Filled it in kind of mossy, but it is, as you can see when you do that, there are some lines that you kind of have to go back to this tool again. Go over it a little bit. Or just to demonstrate the other way, the patch tool. I could circle that area there. And go down to here. I want to get rid of that dark area. Move over there a little bit. Little area there. And that looks a lot better, I think. But I'll go back to the spot healing brush and just go over a couple little funny spots that I see. Now here, I'm not sure what this is, but that's a bright distraction in my opinion, so I'm going to go over that as well. And I think that's going to be good enough for that section. So let's go back, fit on screen, and see how things are coming along. That's not too bad. Now, again, to me, this is a bit of a bright area up here that I don't really care for, so I'm not going to take the time, but I'll do it really quickly just to see how it works out. Do that fill there, see how it works. Okay, now it's filled it in, but it's not great, so let's just magnify it to 50% again. You could do 100% if you want to be really picky. So as you can see, that's a little bit goofy right there. So I'll go back to my spot healing brush, get rid of some of these bright areas. See how that works. I have to be a little careful here. Again, that would be better to use the fill, let the computer do the work for me for a moment. There's bigger spots. Okay, so that darkens it a little bit more. Again, this is a fairly insignificant area of the photo, so it's not going to be terribly noticeable. Now I could go around and fill in all these little white spots if I really wanted to. It's all, again, a matter of taste. So fit on screen, have a look at that. Now as I'm looking at that, I think the water is actually could be a little brighter, so I can do this one of two ways to brighten it up. Go down to the whites and selective color. I could just, it's working a little slow here now on me, so well, that's not really making a heck of a lot of difference except for around here, because I think there's actually a fair amount of blue in that, so it might even be blue that works a little bit better for brightening it. A little bit, not a whole lot. So I will go to curves right here, and I usually click right about here. It makes a little dot there, and then I go up here, and as you can see, I can make it look horrible just to show you what it's doing. All I actually want is for the water to get brighter. So it'd be a lot of work, and I'm not going to do this because it'd take too much time, but if I was happy with how the water looked, the brightness, I could then go to my brush and I go to 100%, opacity and flow, make the circle bigger, and I could go over all this, the whole rest of the photo other than the water basically, and I could get rid of all the brightness in the areas that I don't want it. Well, it's going fairly quickly, so I'll just go over this a little bit more. Okay, that's not too bad. I find it's a little bit bright over here, so again, I would go to my select color. I could darken the yellows and do that, and then again I could go over all the rest of it and bring back the brightness of the areas that I do want to keep, which I'll again do really quickly here. A little bit messy, but hopefully it's making the main point. Okay, so as you can see, that's not standing out so much. As far as the composition, I think there's one weakness that I wasn't paying attention to enough, and to me the waterfall itself is a little bit high in the composition. It should have been more along the law of thirds line right here, so I should have dropped the waterfall down from about that much. In my opinion, it would have been a little bit better, but anyhow, hopefully I've given you a few good tips here. And when you get into doing sunsets and you've got tree lines up here and you're doing the manual blending, it gets a lot trickier, but just for waterfalls you can do fairly quickly. It's still not perfect, but again, I just wanted to make a few points, give you a few tips, pointers. Again, I could go back to, just to give you one last thing here, layer that I'd already created, get rid of the yellow tint. It actually got more of a bluish tint, so I can make that really blue, or I can make it light blue. Now if I wanted to, I could add, whoops, that's way too much there. So back down to about 10 or 11. I could go over this, make it look like there's a little bit more misty spray. Not really that visible as I'm doing it, so I'll just crank it right up just to make a point. Okay, so you can see how fast it does it. And I've got that way up there, but so anyway, what you can also do is, very quickly, I'll put that down so it's really dark. If there were areas that I was unhappy with, which to me there are over here, let's go down to more 50% just to do this really quickly to make a point. That area there, I'll focus on that for a moment. As you can see, that's darkening that area. And any areas throughout the whole photo, if I felt they needed a bit of darkening, even this part of the creek, that's a little bit too bright there in my opinion, so I'll go over that a little bit. Back to there. I could go over all these bright yellow spots here, because again, I don't want the person's focus to be going up into the corners with these bright spots. I want people's focus to be drawn into the main photo in this area here. So any brightness I'm gonna go over, but that's gonna do it. Once again, this is Thomas Dawson, my first go at it, so my apologies for fumbling over some of my words. And